All right, good evening. We'll call the Aquifer Protection Agency meeting to order. Alexis, do you mind calling a roll?
Not at all. Mr. Schulman,
Here.
Ms. Wells,
Here.
Ms. Lankowski,
Here.
Mr. Bryce,
Here.
Ms. Langalis,
Here.
Mr. Rowena.
Here.
Okay, so that is 1, 2, 3, 6. You do have a quorum.
Great.
Mhm.
Everyone's seated this evening. So looking at the agenda, we do not have any new applications for re-registration. But we do have pending applications for re-registration. The first one is RA 24-104, 255 Main Avenue, Nina and Marco Inc. APA registration application for active repair maintenance of vehicles. Alexis, do you want to share an update on this application? Or application.
Yes, application for registration. You are
Yes.
correct.
Thank you.
This is the AMCO station on Main Avenue. I will note that I had sent you a staff memo earlier, and I had indicated that this facility was complete, and I'm going to retract that now. I had hopes that that everything would kind of come together by tonight, but not quite. So Harry is here from McCord Engineering, and he can give you he'll give you a more detailed update as far as where this property stands. But just as a reminder, you had previously found this application to be incomplete because you felt that it warranted a stormwater management plan and also a certified materials management plan. You might recall that all registrations require a self-certified materials management plan. What's different with this one is you're requiring an engineer to certify that material management plan in addition to the stormwater management plan. At your last meeting on August 27th, you gave the applicant a 90-day extension of time to complete some of the work. I'll remind you that unlike a lot of the applications that you might see when you're wearing a different hat, such as a planning and zoning hat, when aquifer registration application is submitted, what it really is a certification that everything within the plan is being currently implemented. They're certifying that they are performing all the best management practices that are spelled out in these various plans. So for this facility, they had submitted a stormwater management plan. They couldn't complete it because they had to do some physical work on the site. They've completed that physical work. They've updated the stormwater management plan, and they are currently working on completing the stormwater management plan. Back to that 90-day extension of time, that gives them until November 18th, which is next week. So they have said that they will absolutely be complete by the 18th, but I'll it's all right with the chair, let the applicant speak for the applicant's representative.
Please, go ahead, Harry, if you'd like.
Thanks, Alexis. Harry Rocha with McCord Engineering. It would have really been ideal if this meeting was tomorrow night instead of tonight, because we could, check off a lot of boxes. But as Alexis said, we're, ongoing implementing all these changes. We unfortunately had some delays in getting some of the products. And I'll just sort of go item by item for you. One of the biggest things in the last meeting, if you recall, actually, if you just let me share my screen, that would probably be helpful.
You should be able to.
Yep. Let me know when you can see my PDF here.
Yep, we can see it.
Yep.
All right. So this is the our sort of stormwater management plan sketch that was included in the latest submittal, which we sent to Alexis. I believe it was either this morning or yesterday. At the last meeting, there was this catch basin here at the front of the property. It was full of sediment. We weren't quite sure where it went. Our assumption was it went to the city sewer, but this being the aquifer protection, we wanted to clarify if it was a dry well or not. So we had the pipe camera inspected. We did confirm that it goes to the city sewer. So that's what this line is shown here. It was traced all the way to this existing manhole in the road. That documentation from the camera company was provided to the city. It was a paper document and a video was sent as well. Furthermore, all the sediment was cleaned out of that catch basin, and we did confirm that it is not a dry well. So it's not a dry well catch basin. It is just a catch basin connected to that manhole. Our recommendation at the time, if that was the case, at the last meeting, if that was the case, we recommended installing a downturn double on there to act as a sediment trap. Our client rush delivery couldn't get it readily available, so it's being delivered actually tomorrow. Will be installed tomorrow. So everything on this catch basin will be taken care of. We're asked to confirm what's going on with this catch basin. We thought it was abandoned, but once we have removed some debris over here, and as they've been going on their cleanout process, it was found. It's a small basin. It's only 16 by 16, so easily could be covered in such a small area over here. But that was determined to be a dry well. It's been completely cleaned out. It's only 29 inches deep, so it's a fairly shallow dry well. But similar to other projects we worked on in the aquifer zone, we have a catch basin insert being delivered tomorrow that will be installed to filter any runoff that gets into that dry well. So by tomorrow, both catch basin situations will be completely resolved. Similarly, Alexis had pointed out at the last meeting that the dumpsters over here, where they store their debris and garbage, would need lids and drainage plugs installed. Our client has new dumpsters coming tomorrow. So that will also be taken care of. There will be lids and drainage plugs on all those brand new dumpsters. All the old ones will be removed by the garbage company along with all the other debris. So that sort of has to happen at the same time. Their company will come pick up the existing debris and garbage and the existing dumpsters, replace all new dumpsters, and at that time all debris will be removed from that side of the building over there. I think that, and then the materials management plan, we're just finishing up the inventory, confirming everything so we can certify it as the PE on the project. And that'll definitely be provided before the 18th, most likely by this weekend or first thing Monday. So I think those are the 4 outstanding items. They're mostly going to be resolved in 24 to 48 hours, definitely before the 18th.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
No
Appreciate
problem.
that presentation, Mr. Rocheville.
Alexis, what are you asking us to do?
This evening, nothing. There is nothing to do since their deadline is still in the pending stage. So at this point, there's nothing to do. We'll talk later about the scheduling another special meeting in December. And at that December meeting, hopefully after review of all the submitted materials, as well as our inspection of the site, I'll be recommending that you accept the application as complete, and they have another 5-year registration.
Great. Are there any further items on this agenda item before we move to the next?
No, for me.
All right. Do agency members have any questions before we go to the next item? All right. Hearing none, we'll move to RA 25-108, 18 Pearl Street, LF and P Incorporated, APA registration for active repair and maintenance of vehicles. Alexis, would you like to present on this one?
Sure. So this application was also on your last meeting agenda in August. At that time, previous to that, the agency had found the application for re-registration to be incomplete because this facility also has a catch basin on site that appears to be a dry well. And this catch basin is directly adjacent to their garage bay entrance. When you had previously determined that was warranted and therefore the application was incomplete, you initially gave a deadline of August 20th. 2025. At the August 27th meeting, the brothers that own Elephant P attended and asked for some additional time. So you did also grant them a 90-day extension of time, which also gives them until a week from today, till November 18th, to submit and implement a complete stormwater management plan. I have not heard from them. I did send them an email on the 5th of November, reaching out, just reminding them of the pending deadline and, if they needed any assistance, to let me know. And just make sure I don't have any attendees. It doesn't look like they are attending tonight. They did receive invite again, I believe. Yeah. So I guess the same for this one. For tonight, there's no action since it's only the 12th. But at your next meeting on December 10th, either I'm going to have the pleasure of reporting that they are complete, or after the 18th, if we don't receive anything, we'll start the enforcement process. I know your next question is going to be what will that look like, and I don't know yet. I'm going to figure that out before the 18th. I've never had a existing facility fail to re-register, so this is new as far as process. But I will go through the regulations, the statute, potentially reach out to the state, and be prepared to take the next steps to get compliance. So we'll go over all those options at your December 10th meeting.
Alexis, if they fail to meet that deadline on the 18th, could you please inform us
Yep.
what your options are and which one
Yes.
you intend to move forward with?
To pursue? Absolutely. I
Agreed.
will keep you posted.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm sure you had this on your to-do list anyways, Alexis, but obviously to reach out to them and remind them yet again that the 18th is coming up very soon.
Yes.
Yep. Appreciate that. Does anyone have any other questions or discussion on this item? All right. With that, we'll move to the third pending application for re-registration, and that is RA 25-112 4 Broad Street, Mags Auto Body LLC, APA registration for active repair and maintenance of vehicles. Alexis, are you presenting on this one as well?
Yeah, I'll just do a quick summary. So this facility was also found to be incomplete and in need of a stormwater management plan. The date for submitting that was September 17th was the deadline. So that was after your August 27th meeting. A stormwater management plan has been submitted, and it appears to be complete to us. If Harry Rushville, if you want to make any comments, he also did this plan.
Sure. If I could share my screen one more time.
Please do.
I will walk you through this one. This one was pretty straightforward. Essentially, there was 2 catch basins, tops with the drywall beneath on site, shown here and here, one in the front of the property, one in the back. We recommended that both catch basins be fitted with a catch basin filter insert. We supervised the property owner installing them. We inspected them. We sent pictures to Alexis before that deadline. I don't remember exactly which date, but it's our understanding that it satisfied the city's requests, and this, I guess, application was deemed complete, I guess. But happy to answer any questions on it.
Are there any questions on this application?
Not for the engineer, but again for Alexis. Did I hear correctly that they've met the requirement, but it was late in meeting that requirement?
No, they were timely in meeting their requirement. They did submit everything and provided photo documentation of the treatment for those 2 catch basins in advance of their deadline of September 17th. Looking for the date now. So they are complete and timely.
Yeah, it looks like I sent you that email on the 11th, Alexis,
11th.
September 11th.
Thank you. And so staff would recommend, or does find, that the application is complete and that the certifications in the registration application itself have been verified as being true, that they have maintained all best management practices. And so staff would recommend a acceptance of this application as complete.
I'll move that we accept the application.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome.
I think we can do this by a show of hands. Mr. Rocheville, do you mind stop sharing your screen so we can see everyone? Thank you. All those in favor? All right, that's unanimous, so I don't think I need to call the others. Thank you for the presentation.
Yep, thank you all for the time tonight.
Thank you. Great. So next we will move to our discussion item, which is a discussion regarding the APA citation and fine ordinance. Alexis, do you want to walk us through what this ordinance is?
Sure. So I'll start with, obviously within your regulations, within the aquifer protection regulations, there is spelled out an enforcement process. And that enforcement process is a relatively strong one. As you recall, there's the kind of a notice violation that then gets bumped up to an enforcement order. And whenever staff issues an enforcement order, it comes before you, the agency, to determine whether, to uphold or withdraw that order. And there's also within the regulations spell out some other remedies, such as revocation of permit or registration as well. And it kind of spells out that process. What the process within the regulations doesn't allow for is the assessment of a fine. Whenever there is a fine, the state statutes spell out a citation hearing process whenever a citation and fine are issued. And the state statute allows for, so within different parts of the state statute, it allows for different fines to be levied against violators of specific portions of the regulations. So the state statutes talk to zoning, for example. It's a per day, $150 per day fine, as long as that violation persists. For aquifer, the amount of fine is defined in section 22A 354, which is the aquifer protection statutes, part of the aquifer protection regulation statute. Sorry, long day. Anyway, it says that for every violation, there can be up to a $1,000 fine. Additionally, within a different part of the state statutes defines kind of the general procedures for that citation and fine process. And then locally, the city has an ordinance that also kind of restates our local citation and fine process that's based on the state statute. And this ordinance the draft language that we're looking at tonight would be the language that the ordinance committee of the council would potentially adopt. And that would set up a kind of a second or additional path of enforcement for aquifer that involves the assessment of a fine for certain violations if they're not remedied in a timely fashion. Just like with the existing citation and fine process for zoning, the staff would send out the enforcement letter, whether it's a notice violation or an order. That's one thing that needs to be ironed out. And then also sends out a citation. And at that point, the citation part would go to a hearing officer. The hearing officer cannot be a City of Norwalk staff member, can't be anyone sitting on a board. Hopefully it's someone that has some interest in land use regulatory law. And they make the determination whether to assess a fine or not. So what you have tonight is kind of a very initial first draft from the law department that would spell out what potentially could be added to the city code to include aquifer citation and fines. I will say that it probably won't be the number. Right now it's a different chapter, chapter 17B. It probably won't be 17B. Aquifer is chapter 17 of the city code. And so it will probably be in chapter 17 itself as a second article. So the establishment of the agency will become Article 1, and then this enforcement process, Article 2. But that's kind
Alexis,
of my summary.
there's nothing in the language you provided us regarding suspension or revocation of permit. Is that permitted in aquifer protection?
That is, so that is part of not the fine, but that exists already within your regulations. And so maybe I'll share my screen. So it really does keep, and this is one of the questions that I've had for the law department, is I want to make sure that we have these two tracks of enforcement, and they both potentially work well in very different ways. And I want to make sure that they don't cross paths, so they don't cause issues with either. So in the aquifer regulations, it spells out a variety of enforcement remedies you can pursue. So the first is a notice of violation, and that really is kind of just a notice. It's not, generally notices aren't binding. They're kind of more of a, hey, just want you to know you're not in compliance. Get your act together, and then we'll be good. And kind of sets up some deadlines. And many times that's all that's needed for compliance. The next is issuance of a written enforcement order. And so those orders are the ones where when staff issues an order, within 10 days, you, the agency, have to hold a show cause hearing and give the respondent an opportunity to give testimony as to why they're not in violation. And then you make a decision whether to uphold or withdraw the order. And that part of your regulations is exceptionally strong. It's a very important part because you've gone through this additional administrative step of not just having your staff basically accuse someone of not following the rules. You've gone through this show cause hearing process, and you've reaffirmed the staff's order or withdrew it, but either one. So that is really strong if there's a case where you then want to take someone to court and file for a temporary injunction. Makes it much easier than, for example, like a zoning violation. There isn't that process. And then third is suspend or revoke a registration or a permit. And your regulations spell out a process that also requires a hearing where you can, and it's kind of the highest. This is kind of a hierarchy of steps. where you can revoke or temporarily suspend any registration or permit if you follow the process that's spelled out in the regulations. What the ordinance would, and then I'll just say, then the last step is that we can take any enforcement to Superior Court, and then see what the court, hopefully the court sides with the city, and there's potential for court penalties, fines, basically. So then what the ordinance would allow is a separate kind of financial penalty for violations that would run kind of parallel to the process that's spelled out in your regulations. And so what the ordinance in its current form says is that when there is a notice of violation, I haven't memorized it since I'm not doing it every day yet. Following a notice of violation, it says that a citation is issued when a violation persists beyond whatever date of a remedy is noted within that notice of violation. And it starts with an initial fine of $500, and then after 5 days, it can increase to potentially $1,000 per day. That's one of the questions that I want from the law department, is clarifying how is a violation defined, and can a violation be considered every day, or is there work that needs to be done kind of every single day by staff to define that a violation is every day. I'll keep going. So one of the things that I would recommend is that going back to in your regulations, that notice violation is really kind of that initial soft kind of heads up, and then you have this order that you either uphold or withdraw, and there's certain things that have to happen within 10 days after you make that kind of decision. What I think might make more sense is, instead of having a fine at a notice of violation, kind of that first kind of heads up, you're in violation, fix it really quick, is that if you uphold an order, it also comes with then a citation, and it might make more sense to link it to an order than a notice violation. But that's
And how do we decide which path to go down? Whether we want to do a revocation or whether we want to do a fine? And at what level do we have flexibility in terms of the amount of the fine?
So you can do both, because they're kind of two separate tracks that are concurrent. I'd say that you, when things go to courts are often looking for a full execution of all administrative processes available, which means that for a successful, so if push comes to shove and you're going to, you're wanting to revoke a registration, it is advisable to show and have kind of a clear path. And I understand it might take a while, but that first, you're in violation, here's a notice of violation, then an order, you're being ordered to rectify this violation, here's your deadline. And then if that order and that deadline pass, then you go to, we gave you one try, we gave you a second try, and then you're going to get revoked. Then separately on that path, which hasn't, the draft language hasn't been ironed out, but either at the time of the issuance of a notice of violation and a certain time passes, a fine is assessed, or when you issue an order and a certain time, like a 5-day period passes, a citation and fine are assessed. And that's kind of a concurrent, but separate. So the getting assessment of the fine and going before the hearing officer don't bar you from continuing up the enforcement ladder and getting to revocation. A bit of rambling. Did that answer your question, Mr. Schulman? Okay.
Yeah, I think it does.
I want to go back to something you said a minute ago about the $1,000 a day fine. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm also curious to hear where the burden of proof lies in issuing that daily fine, if that's something where a zoning officer needs to go out and actually put eyes on whatever the infraction may be, or if it's
Right.
incumbent on the violator to prove otherwise. Like I'm unsure where that burden of proof is for that piece. So I'd be curious to hear what Corporation Counsel thinks on that and
Right.
what makes sense.
Yes, and they were going to do some research. They didn't have
Great.
an answer, and that's
Yep.
part of why it might make more sense. It might be there might be two different answers depending on if the fine is connected to a notice violation or if it's connected to an upheld order.
Okay. I think it would be helpful as much as we can in this ordinance to be clear in that language. Just that way it's not only well known to us, but also to folks who might receive this exactly what is expected.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, and then in that same vein, also on the amounts of the fines and if there's any discretion in that amount. The way I read this, it sounds like it is $500 initially, and then every day it is $1,000. And so it'd be good to know if that's actually the intention, and if that's the case. If so, great, I think it's clear. Or if it's intended to be up to 500 or up to 1,000, to just spell that out a little bit more and maybe put some language as to at whose discretion, and what that looks like. I think that would be helpful in navigating, I mean, situations I hope don't arise, but in case they do.
Well, no, I very much agree. As someone that is involved with the zoning enforcement hearings, clarification of that would be very helpful.
Agreed. And my last piece, which I shared with you earlier, was about where the money is payable to. I'm curious, like if there's a special, like if it's going to the general fund for the city, or if it's like to something more specific to Aquifer. I'm not exactly sure what makes sense, and I don't have a position to advocate for. Just clarification around how that works.
Agreed, and that was one of my initial questions for the law department staff as well.
Great.
Definitely update you as I get answers, hopefully well before your next meeting.
Great. Are there other, or Lou, do you have something?
I do, for a gross violation that, in your judgment and our judgment, for example, someone sending raw sewage directly into the Norwalk River, for example. Is there a way to take action that could stop that immediately?
Not say, well, let's pretend, because Aquifer doesn't regulate sewage, but like say if it was a hazardous material,
Like spray foam, right? That was
then-
one that we've heard.
yes, or spray foam. So not really through you or your staff. It very much is an enforcement of land use regulation or land use requirements that focus on a certain group of commercial facilities within a geographical area, attesting that they are doing these best management practices. When there is something physically happening, that's when the state of Connecticut spill response comes in. So if we were to ever say we had a facility that had dry wells in the parking lot, for example, and they were in their material management plan, they were supposed to be keeping all waste oil inside the building in a tank with secondary containment. And we went there and we saw that there was a 55 gallon barrel outside directly next to the dry well. We would absolutely immediately issue a notice violation. We'd probably actually just call them or knock on their door and say, this needs to be moved ASAP. And then we'd ramp through the violation process if they didn't move that barrel.
So the answer seems to be no.
No, yeah. So if there is an active spill, then the state swoops in. That's easy. For bad judgment, no. Unfortunately it's a kind of a slow process. Yeah. That said, I mean, most of these facilities, I mean, you've met a few of them. They're for the most part small Norwalk companies. I would say that they are generally pretty responsive until it impacts their bottom line. Yeah, no, it's not a prompt acting reactive regulatory scheme.
Alexis, do you have a number of applications that are sort of in trouble right at the moment that you're working?
So no, actually, that's a good segue. So you have, I didn't find my notes. There are only a limited number of registered facilities, and the number will only continue to go down. And you're now at 28. My math is right. There are initially 33 facilities, and I'm pretty sure that 5 are now vacant and are no longer registered. We have a few other that are vacant but still registered. So of those 28, you've actually processed all of them. Registration renewals. Registrations are good for 5 years. And so this tends to come in these 5-year slugs. The regulations were adopted in late 2009. And so the majority of regulations were, the registrations were first approved in 2010. So 2010, 15, 20, and 25. So you're actually at the very end. There's just one additional facility that is due, I believe, sometime later in this year. But once you get past the 3 that were on tonight's agenda, that's pretty much it for the next 5 years with this one straggler.
Alexa, I caught what I think is an error on page 3 on line 3 on the 3rd line. It says penalties, costs, and/or fees admitted to the Aquifer Protection Agency. Should that be submitted?
I'll highlight that. Yes. And this is written by, not by me, but by the law office.
Are there,
Thank you.
are there other comments or questions on this?
Just a very simple question. Alexa, is the registrant a person or an entity?
It is generally, it could be either.
Okay,
For most of our facilities, it is an entity. But there are some individual people.
so, we're indicating that these citations and notices will be delivered to a person.
Mhm.
So how is that person determined if it's an entity? And if the entity and the owner are separate, is the owner also notified?
So when excellent questions. One of the things that we check when we receive a registration or a re-registration is if the registrant, which is typically the operator of the facility, if they're an entity, we use the state of Connecticut's, the Secretary of State's business search to see who they have to be a Connecticut registered entity, and they have to have updated, an active business registration, and they have to clearly state who the manager or the owner, depending on how they have it set up. So that's what we use to confirm the person that is in charge of the entity. And that's one of the things that's required on the registration form, is that they clarify not only the entity, but then they have to also say, well, who is the person responsible? And they also have to list who is the operator, who's physically there at the site and responsible for physically implementing. And then for owner, typically we have not copied the owner. So the registration is very operator centric. So the registration is filed for by the facility operator. We actually added the initial proposed state form didn't even have a place for property owner. Nor I think a lot of places in the state, the owner and operator are the same. When we first started this, one of the first things I noticed is that Norwalk is the land of a lot of tenants. And so we actually added that to our registration. That's not typically on other registration forms throughout the state. Because so we don't notify them of violations. We certainly can. We always notify them of re-registrations, particularly if the facility operator is not having. We require the property owner to sign for each registration, and then if a facility operator leaves and they don't own the property, we always reach out to the property owner to let them know that they are allowed by law to register as a vacant facility for 1 5-year term.
And we would reach out to the owner if the registration was denied.
Yes. So if I would definitely let I think fairness, the owner would be notified.
Thank you.
Fines are only levied against the entity, right? Not the owner.
Not correct.
So you have to collect it from against your collection process would be against the entity.
Yes.
And if they don't have assets.
Right. So unlike zoning, which is definitely on the owner, even if the violation is due to a tenant's activity, right? It's to the owner, and therefore you have that the option of liens, and now the tax sale. With this process, that is lacking.
Do we want to discourage these kinds of businesses from being located in this area where we're worried about the aquifer?
I mean,
one of the
I mean,
things.
I think I think that was the intent of the regulation, to be honest. I think the aquifer regulations, discussion of them started in the late 1990s with legislators trying to figure out what an aquifer protection program would look like. And initially it was more clearly aimed at systematically kind of removing these facilities that conduct these higher risk activities outside of the aquifer area. Over time, by the time that it got passed, the aquifer protection statute was a bit diluted, I'd say. So I do think that is still, at the end of the day, these you had 33 regulated sites. And what the law says is that you can't do any of the 28 regulated activities within the aquifer blob unless it's at one of those now it's 28 sites, right?
So would it suit our purposes better in terms of just discouraging this activity in the aquifer protection area to hold the owner of the land liable for the fines? Because then he's not going to re-rent to someone who's conducting this kind of activity. And then land becomes more and more valuable in that area for other purposes.
That's an excellent question.
25 years ago, maybe there was no other way to use that property. There was a gas station there, it's always going to be a gas station. But today, that's a different story.
I will ask.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Are there other questions or comments on the draft ordinance?
Yes, I have one comment.
Please.
I share the same concerns that Mr. Schulman does, only I was going to ask it a different way. And that is, if your agency feels that there's, for lack of a better term, a clear and present danger as a result of something that's happening, shouldn't you have the authority, like the fire department does, to close down a bar or someplace because of not necessarily a fire hazard, but because there's not a good way to get out or whatever? Shouldn't you have that authority as well?
Yes, but I don't know. I mean,
Well, isn't that something
thank you.
that can be addressed in this regulations that you're talking about putting together?
Yeah, so I think that there are probably I mean, I can reach out to the health department and to the fire department. I suspect that there are other entities that do have some better reactionary enforcement ability that come with what enables them to do their job. I just know that.
Well, I mean, just as an example, the engineer was talking on that first application. There were two catch basins. One was a dry well, the other one, he said, went to the city sewer, and I really wanted to ask him whether he meant the sewer or the storm line, but I couldn't get myself unmuted.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's okay.
It is the stormwater system. It is not the sewer. It is the stormwater system. It is not the sewer.
I thought that was probably the case.
Yes.
But the interesting part about that is that, if there were chemical escapes into either one of those catch basins, one would go directly to the Norwalk River, the other one would go directly into the aquifer. Both are bad.
Yep.
The second one's even worse for me because I drink that water.
Right.
So I really think that you should ask Corporation Counsel about adding something in there to give your ability to do something that requires immediate attention rather than waiting a month for this commission to do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I will ask, and I do understand your frustration with the limits of what we
Well,
currently have.
sometimes things require an immediate attention.
Yeah, I like what you proposed, Alexis. So to follow up both to see if there is a way to grant you that authority as our agent, but also to see if there's other routes through maybe the health department or fire department or otherwise that can also achieve a similar outcome, right? Where we're able to stop it not on day 10, but on like day 1 of the issue. Sweet.
Right. I mean, certainly if there are other that happened with the phone systems, for example, there happen to be other issues with the manufacturer of foam and the fire hazard nature of that fire was able to kind of shut them down immediately, whereas the aquifer stuff was a bigger kind of long-term hurdle, and that ended up, having them vacate the premises. But
Once their
I hear you.
registration is complete, and it's another 5 years before they come up for re-registration, are there periodic inspections? Because
There, absolutely.
Okay.
So we do every facility that is registered has a required annual compliance inspection. So each facility is charged $300 every year that they don't have to re-register. And we do a full inspection of their facility. Absolutely. And then whenever we're driving through to inspect one, we're doing a drive-by review of all these facilities kind of all the time.
Good.
Definitely.
Good, because I wouldn't put it past some of these people or any group of people. Because
Right.
well, I've got 5 years, but I won't worry. We'll just go about it the easiest way. I worked for a company once where they were discharging terrible waste into a tank, but it never filled. The tank never filled up, and this went on for 10 years. And I thought, are you kidding me? Nobody thought this was strange that they were discharging into a tank with an infinite capacity.
A magical tank.
It was just easier to say, okay, it's being discharged into a tank. Why worry? It's all fine. Until there was an enormous problem.
Wow.
So anyway, that I just can see that kind of thing happening.
Are there other questions or discussion on the draft ordinance?
I have a comment not about the draft ordinance, but you gave us a copy of the ordinance authorizing the aquifer protection agencies. I don't want to be too politically correct, and this is not your issue, but we also now have a new mayor. And he is used throughout that ordinance. It probably should have an S in front of it and parens. I think that's the way it's done these days.
I would say, or where appropriate, they instead, just as an all encapsulation. But I'm not as familiar on the legalese of what's what's correct these days. So yes, but thank you for catching that, though. I appreciate that.
Good.
Great. Any other items for discussion while we're on? Do we want to talk briefly about the 2026 calendar? Yeah, Alexis, do you want to talk about it?
Yes,
Sure.
please. We're in any board is required to put its annual meeting dates, file them with the city clerk by the end of the year. And we just mentioned that the round of registrations will be rapidly diminishing, and so I don't see other than continued discussion about the ordinance. And then we can certainly kind of have a meeting to go over our findings for annual inspections. And then anytime we issue an order, we're going to have a show cause hearing. So I suspect that you're going to end up having, when you have meetings, they're often going to be special meetings like tonight. However, I do think there's value in having a regular schedule of meetings. And so what I would recommend is that you meet quarterly, so once every 3 months. And I think that the next question is, when would you, understanding that those meetings might be more kind of check-ins, when would you like those meetings? You wear your planning and zoning hat every, what is it, first and
third
and
Wednesdays.
third Wednesday. So it can either, I can schedule those quarterly meetings to be the, those, what you had done in the past, those 15 minutes prior to a planning and zoning meeting. Or if you would rather, you can do the second, Wednesday. Conservation meets the second and fourth Wednesday, so I'm kind of stuck in that. The second Wednesday of the month, like you're doing tonight, if you'd like more time.
I'm favoring the quarterly with the 15 minutes before one of our regular planning and zoning meetings, if it's a small check-in. And if we have more substantial of a workload, having a special meeting maybe on that second Wednesday would be the correct approach. I'm curious if other members feel differently on that or have an opinion of how we should meet next year.
We never finish these meetings in 15 minutes. Maybe we ought to just push it back to 5:30.
Okay, and have it just start at 5:30. And if we do somehow finish in 15, we get a small break between things.
Right.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
good with that. That works for me.
So 5:30 and before, looks like you're typically the third Wednesday of the month, a little lighter than the first. Steve was, I think that was his original thought, is that the first meeting of the month is usually more. I don't know why it would be, but I'm looking at.
I haven't noticed that rhythm, if so.
I haven't either.
But we actually do have some upcoming business.
Mhm.
We have the ones we discussed tonight, as well as a refinement of the regulation itself that we'll need to act on.
Yes, and so I was going to recommend a December 10th special meeting to finish out the year and tidy up those things. Do you have a preference for first or third Wednesday of the month to start a half an hour early?
Let's do the first, just that way it's at the start of the quarter, right? For each of them.
Okay.
I guess with maybe the exception of January, but still.
Right.
And Alexis, if, for example, you might know if, like the applicant that came before us just now, he's going to get everything tomorrow. I mean, then why do we need to discuss it tonight? Because then we'll have to hear it, I think, all over again. Or maybe you would just say, oh, the application that you heard on November 12th, they did meet all of those requirements and we're done. Do we approve? I mean, that it can be that brief, but sometimes with our other applications, we hear the whole thing all over again. So, it just makes it go on a little longer. That's all.
I will absolutely pledge to expedite as much as you want to. So there's a kind of a fine line. I don't want to be it to be like it, because it is a staff-centric administration in a lot of ways. I don't want it to be so much that you are left out. And so yeah, you let me know what you want, and it can be as little or as much as the agency members want.
You can
Tammy,
always reschedule a meeting, Alexis.
Right.
So if it looks like there may be things that need to be discussed, maybe you check with Chapin or whoever the chairman is, and suggest that we do it on a separate night, because it really disturbed me when we had like 30, 40 people waiting for a zoning meeting. and the aquifer protection meeting would go on for,
Yeah.
you know, way longer than we had scheduled.
Yeah. I agree with that. And Tammy, to the point you raised, I also jotted a note down that it may be good for our special meetings to align our meeting with like after the due dates that we've set, like the 90-day extensions, for example. I realized that tonight as I was reading off the first one, I was like, oh, we should have done this after the 18th. Whoops.
Right.
So noted for future. Yeah.
And that was really my fault. I really thought that 2 out of the 3 were towards success. And
It's okay. Yeah. Great. Any other items for discussion? Great. I think we have minutes. So approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the August 27th meeting?
I'll make the motion to.
Thank you, Tammy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lou. We'll do this with a show of hands. All those in favor? Looks unanimous. Great. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Tammy. Show of hands. All those in favor? Thank you
Yep.
all. Have a great night.
Mr. Chairman,
Any
before we leave,
Yes.
is there a zoning hearing following this?
I'm not familiar with that. No, sorry. Alexis, do you know?
no, I think you have one on the 19th, I think. Let me go, hold on. I'm
Oh,
checking.
like a zoning meeting? No, it's yeah, the 19th is our next meeting. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry, I thought you
That
meant
would
like a
explain
citation.
my
Sorry.
lack of invitation.
Okay, I will
Yeah.
follow up with staff on that.
Yeah, I'll remind Brian. So what Dick, the link that I emailed you separately worked?
It went
I
to
assume?
spam, but I got it.
That went to spam as well.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I've told it it's not spam every 2 weeks for 3 months now, but it doesn't seem to help.
Okay.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, no zoning meeting tonight, so we're all done for the evening.
You could try adding it to your contacts, Richard, if that keeps happening too.
Yeah, I'll try that.
Try. I know sometimes things go in wonky places with the new city stuff. Anyway.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Good night.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Alexis.
Good night.
Bye.